Well, noting that it's 7:02 p.m. on December 6, 2023, I'll call the Board of Health meeting to order. And since it's a virtual meeting via Zoom, we can go around and just announce the board members' presence. So Daryl Beardsley present.
Matt Beavers present.
Julie Dreyfus present.
Diana Hook present.
Okay. And so we have two scheduled appointments, and notably a variance hearing at 7:30 p.m. and then a number of other items here for business. And I am going to, if it's okay with you, Matt, turn the meeting over to you.
Sure.
And I can help with documents, but I can stop sharing now if you would prefer.
Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing and I'll share.
Okay.
All right, so that should be the agenda. So we do have one item that was not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance, and this is a 2024 Disposal Works Installer Permit Renewal for DP and Sons of Millis. Do I have a motion to add this to the agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Right. All right. So with that added, I think our first appointment is in 7 minutes. So maybe we can just knock out some short things before then. So probably maybe worth going through the permit renewals. We have Jay Hockman, D.L. Atkinson, Paul Gavea, and then the one we just added, DP and Sons. Mark, any concerns on any of these, or are they all good for renewal?
They're all good for renewal. Some of them were just on distribution boxes. Others I don't see in town, but they're okay to come. They come back every year just as a routine, and I guess that way they'll be ready if they need to have their license available at the time. So I recommend approval of the three noted.
And then the fourth, DP and Sons.
The fourth one, as added. Yes.
All right, great. So unless any questions, we'll just go through these in order. So do I have a motion to approve the permit renewal for J. Hockman Incorporated, conditional on a pre-construction conference?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the permit renewal for DL Atkinson Incorporated, the Disposal Works Installer Permit, conditional on pre-construction conference?
So moved.
Seconded.
And if no discussion, I will say Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the Disposal Works Installer Permit Renewal for Paul Gouveia, doing business as Paul's Title V Services, conditional to pre-construction conference?
So moved.
Seconded.
No discussion, then Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Just letting some people in. All right, and then I think our last one is, oh, there we go, trying to let him in. Our last one is a motion to approve the 2024 Disposal Works Installer Permit for DP and Sons of Millis, again, conditional to pre-construction conference.
So moved.
Seconded.
If no discussion, Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
All right, great. Do we have any update on the Laurel Farm wells? I don't know whether this is brief or not. It probably depends on how much update we've had. I know we were waiting on sort of additional meetings with the town.
I believe we're waiting on the Recreation Department to update us on.
It's listed on the select board's agenda for tomorrow night for an update from the Recreation Commissioner. So.
All right, so
I'd like to just interrupt. Rebecca, can you just announce that you're present?
This is Rebecca Honeywell. I'm present. Can you
Thank
hear
you.
me? Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so sounds like not much to add on the Laurel Farm wells for tonight. We can probably just bump it to the agenda for the next meeting once we've had sort of the update that's being presented tomorrow, unless I see your hand. I think I just saw Jeff's hand go up.
Yeah, I just, if you guys are available tomorrow night, it's probably, I know there's some issues with this whole plan, so I may need some reinforcements tomorrow night. I could look, before the end of tonight's call, or I might be able to tell you right now where it is on the agenda.
It's number 3.
Yeah, there it is. And the first are pretty minor, so probably be, I would, and we're starting at 6:30. I bet you it'd be around 7 to 7:15 tomorrow night if anyone's available.
I am definitely not available tomorrow. Is there anyone else who can be there?
If you're not, it's fine because it'll be recorded and everything. But I think there's some challenges there. We may have to work
I
with them.
think
a
I'm
little bit.
able to make it. So,
Like I said, I think it'll be around 7:15. We're starting at 6:30, but that's open session. There's no executive session tomorrow night. Thank you.
So great if Daryl, if you can go, and I guess no more than one of the rest of everyone. I can't be there, so I won't be there. All right. And then I think still it should come back to our full, whatever discussion there is, we should probably touch on it again at our next meeting with our full board next time we have a chance. Can we approve minutes in 1 minute? Did
Yep,
anyone have any?
okay.
I think I had no to minor comments as I recall.
Yes, I had no edits.
I had a few minor.
Same thing, minor.
I had none.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the 11:15 meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Matt Beaver's aye.
Julie Dreyfus, I.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
All right,
Daryl
great.
Beardsley, aye.
Okay. I always forget, Daryl, that you could go at the end out of alphabetical order. I always assume you've already spoken. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's something I've noticed at other meetings that the chair goes at the end. So,
I think it's fine. I just apologize if I start cutting you off because I forget that,
oh, that I'm still out there. Okay.
yeah, that you haven't already spoken.
All right. I'll keep plowing ahead though if that comes up.
All right. So I think we're at 7:10. And so I think I saw Mr. Berkowitz had joined us. And so this is a follow-up on the discussion of the deed recording for a fence surrounding the leaching area on 13 Course Brook. Mr. Berkowitz, are you here?
I am.
Okay, great. I can't find you on my list of people. So let me just pull up probably the most relevant thing is what we had proposed as a superseding deed restriction. And so I think to summarize this issue, there was a lot of discussion when this initial plan went up, including sort of contact with the DEP about requirements for fencing around this system. And I think the concern at the moment was that I think at that time there was a plan for livestock. The manufacturer specifically noted that there should be no livestock, sort of large livestock such as horses or cows or whatever on top of the system. And so we had proposed a deed recording that was recorded. However, there are now no livestock, and the deed recording was sort of such that it still required a fence whether they were there or not. And so we discussed this last time, and I think the conclusion of the board was that we could provide a superseding deed recording, which basically just indicates that the fence is only needed if there are livestock present. I think I'll first go to the board, and does that seem like a reasonable summary of our sort of
I
quick
think
summary of
that
our prior
captures
discussions?
it well, and I think that with this information, it gives the flexibility if there are no livestock, but it also gives ample information to any future owners that their system, which would be expensive to replace or to repair, will be preserved by not having livestock on top of it.
I see, Rebecca, I see your hands up. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just had another comment, and that is, is there a way that we can assure that in any case, anything heavy that would go over that location could potentially cause trouble. I actually, a relative of mine had a branch fall down in their yard, and the tree company fell into their septic system with a truck because they didn't know it was there. And I think the one of the, they found it, but I think that is kind of analogous to what this problem is, and that is that it's hard to know exactly where that septic system is, and I'm wondering if there's any way. I think that if there's any way that we can do something that would not be deleterious to him, that would be beneficial for future owners just to know. So there's a way to identify it. I think one of the advantages of having a fence is to, or some sort of the original agreement was to have something that would basically identify the margins or the borders of the septic system for the safety of the septic system. And obviously the relevance here with the barn would make it at risk mostly in the circumstances of livestock. And that's what the context of our proposed new deed restriction addresses. But in general, what is there a way to address that as well, that kind of risk?
Well, you're
So
going to be
I
very
point out that
happy
every-
to.
I was just going to say every single septic system in town should not have heavy equipment over it.
Yeah, you know.
When you transfer property, you get required a Title V inspection, which should include a copy of the as-built plan. And so every owner, when they purchase a property, should get a copy of the as-built. I will say that I had a dead tree in my front yard that was looming over my septic, and I removed it for this very reason, because I didn't want it to fall and destroy my septic. And the tree company required that I produce the as-built before they would do any work.
Yeah.
So that they wouldn't drive over it. So I think that there are generally protections in place. I think in this case, we had gone a little bit further because of the presence of the barn, and because this specific system specifically called out livestock in the sort of owner's manual. And so we went to DEP, they pointed this out to us and asked that we do this. I think that this deed restriction basically says if there are no livestock, you don't need a fence. If there are livestock, you need a fence. And I think that's a fair thing to say.
And also on the paragraph above the paragraph that talks about the livestock, it states all vehicular traffic is prohibited over the system, GSF system. So it's in this deed recording, what you're looking for, Rebecca.
Yeah, no, I just thought I would bring it up because that was sort of the context of my original concerns.
All right, so I think, I know, Mr. Berkowitz, you had sort of wanted this removed entirely. I think the board was not inclined to do that. We think that this gives flexibility while still ensuring that future owners are informed of the concerns.
Is it for me to talk?
If you'd like to make comment, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I think some of the conversation or discussion here is a little bit flawed. Just to back up, when Colin Mayo, who's terrific, by the way, and first of all, thanks to all of you for helping us get this done. Okay, really, it was not easy during COVID and getting everything together after COVID with engineers and everybody. So thank you, everybody, for helping us get it done, and we're done. Okay, which is cool. But the concept of this weight on a system, okay, and I've talked to Colin at length about this, and I have videos of his 16,000 ton excavator, 37,000 pounds, whatever it is, excavator, actually building the system, okay, on the system, smoothing the earth over it, I think would demonstrate to anybody that a 1,000 pound horse who has, 250 pounds per hoof, okay, it's like me standing on one leg holding, a pumpkin or something, jumping up and down, is not going to damage, okay.
So the problem is the manufacturer says it's going to, and so you're not going to convince us from an example you gave to take this away. Like, you could go ahead and tell us that, but I don't think you're going to make a lot of headway there.
Well, Matt, I thank you for that. Okay, but if you recall, this would have never come up. It would have never been an issue unless we had one neighbor, okay, who dragged us through 3 hours of discussion with you.
So again, are you disputing that the manufacturer says that livestock should be prohibited over the system?
You know what? I never saw any correspondence from the manufacturer. All I heard was our neighbor saying that they spoke with a customer service rep from the manufacturer.
So here is the quote from Mass DEP, quoting from the installation manual for this system, which says if the system is to be installed in livestock areas, the system must be fenced off around the perimeter to prevent compaction of the cover material and damage to the
No
system.
need to read it all. I can see it, Matt. Thank you.
Okay, I
Okay,
was just
so-
reading it for the benefit of.
Thank you for the record. I get it. Okay. So my question of you is, if that's the case, how about the other systems in town? If you're going to deed restrict me, you need to deed restrict everybody in town who has livestock pastured over their septic system. And I can point to 5 of them, you know, within a mile of my house, okay, that have pasture, horses, whatever, over their system. And I'm not fighting because I don't ever expect to have horses here again, okay? I'm getting older. I'm not riding like I used to, okay? I have chickens and a couple of ducks, okay? So, you know, and I know what you're doing, okay? But it's not my neighbor's money. It's not my neighbor's system. It's not your money, not your system. I know what you're trying to do, but this is like, if you're singling us out, okay, because of this system, you need to address the systems in town that have the exact same situation as we have, okay? Where there's septic systems.
I think to the money point,
I can
if you're
try
not
to
going to have
understand
horses, you
to
don't
them.
need to build a fence, and I think this allows for that.
And I appreciate that, okay, because my yard looks like a golf course right now, and I don't need a darn fence out there.
Yeah.
Okay. My thought is though that why us, okay? Why us, okay? Because we put a nice new system in, state of the art, okay. You know, and again, Colin ran over this thing back and forth 1,000 times with his 37,000-pound tractor, okay, to install it, and you're concerned about, okay, a little horse. Okay, it doesn't make any. It just doesn't make any logical sense, Matt.
So I think the only way your
do it to
argument works
us.
is if you tell us that horses should be allowed on top of this thing, no matter what. Because if you think horses should be allowed in this, then I think we have to go against the manufacturer. And if you think that if you don't have horses, you don't need a fence, then this addresses that problem. So I think the deed restriction does no harm if no one's going to put horses there. If they're going to put horses there, they should build a fence. And I think it's hard to make an argument that they shouldn't build a fence.
Well, it's not building a fence.
And I think
okay.
I think that if this comes up in the future, I think we would continue to do the same thing.
Yes,
Well,
we don't often see this kind of innovative alternative system
That's correct.
that is
That's
very,
correct.
is shallow in the earth, below the surface. Coming up where people had told us that they were planting livestock, which is what you were originally planning, was to have horses. So it raised the issue and then drove, you know, into looking further into manufacturers' recommendations, etc. So until cases come before us, you know, and certainly in the future, anyone who is putting in Elgin and is planning to have livestock, we would make the same kind of provisions for them.
And if I can add, there is a provision within the letter. If you do want to build a septic system with a pipe and stone, then that would be different. That's item number 4 on the letter that Claire addressed to us. But this is like a spongy material. It's an Elgin, just so everyone knows, the Elgin drain system. But there is that
What's
option.
troubling, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mike. Go ahead, please.
No, I'm all set.
What's troubling to us, okay, that the board has taken the advisement of a neighbor who questioned Mark, okay, who questioned the state, the town, who insisted we move the system many feet more than, they questioned GLM. They trespass on our property, okay, to remeasure GLM and call GLM 70 feet off on their measurements. I mean, it goes on and on and on, Matt, okay?
So in the end, we did not rely on the comments of the neighbors in making this deed restriction. We relied on the manufacturer's documentation and the comments of the
No,
DEP.
the neighbors are the one that brought this to the table. This would have been a 15 or 20-minute call with you guys.
So is your argument that if we weren't, that because we otherwise wouldn't been aware of this, we should allow you to do something the manufacturer doesn't allow? Because that doesn't really hold a lot of weight.
Manufacturers of General Motors don't allow the cars to go, you know, jump off cliffs either, okay? It's
right, and so we
very-
have speed limits. Like they go 120, but that doesn't mean we eliminate speed limits just because the cars can go faster.
Right, okay, so I can tell I'm getting nowhere with this discussion, okay, because you made up your mind, why have the discussion? So please go ahead and do what you need to do, okay?
Okay.
I mean, it's disturbing, okay? It really is.
I guess I just don't understand why you object to having this deed restriction, because it doesn't cause you to do anything right now. It just requires that if someone in the future has horses, they should do this to prevent damage to the system. So I don't understand what the harm is in that.
It's just, it's a deed restriction on our property that we do not want to have any deed restriction on our property, as you probably wouldn't like it either.
So you're going to have a deed restriction because you have an alternative system that's always has a deed restriction. Everyone in town with this type of system has a deed restriction. With an innovative alternative system has a deed restriction. So there's no way there's going to be no deed restriction. So there's going to be something there that goes further to say if there's livestock, going to be livestock, there needs to be a fence.
So this is a new town regulation that you're going to have deed restrictions and fence regulations. And
So
is there
any system that uses innovative alternative technology in town has an existing deed restriction.
And anyone who didn't build for a garbage grinder has a deed restriction. If you attend many Board of Health meetings, you will probably hear the word deed restrictions come up at nearly every meeting.
I don't want to ever attend another Board of Health meeting. Okay, so thank you for your work that you've done. I can tell this is a one-way conversation, and I get it. Okay, it's living in Sherborn, and it is what it is. One neighbor brought this to your attention, and they've been at us ever since.
I apologize. This has been hard, and it's clear that you're very angry. But we're
I'm not
applying
angry.
things
No,
consistently, and we're not going to change.
I'm not angry.
So that's
I'm
fine.
too old to get angry. Okay, I'm not angry. I'm just concerned that you look around and other farms all over the place have horses or goats or whatever.
And if they have a stone and trench system, that's a stone and pipe system, that's allowed.
So I guess I was punished by putting in a more quality of a system. Is that correct?
You
It's
could have
not
put in a stone and
quality
pipe
at-
system if you could have done so and not had to meet variances. I mean, it's always an alternative.
It was to allow you to build in a difficult spot. That's what that system permitted.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, the language that we have posted in our barn, which Mark came over, looked at, took a photograph of, the language we posted in the barn states what it states, and that hangs there, it's nailed to the wall. Is that okay by you folks? As you wrote the language, so I'm curious, I just want to confirm that that's okay.
That's fine. I think the deed restriction here supersedes the one that you already recorded, because this removes the requirement for a fence. And so this new deed restriction gives you more flexibility because it doesn't require a fence unless there's livestock.
I understand. Thank you for that. And I understand, but you also asked for a sign to be posted in the barn relative to heavy livestock. Okay, I think that was the terminology that we had printed up and put in the barn that Mark took a photograph of. Is that part of this deed restriction? And it's fine if it is, okay? I just want to be clear.
Yeah, we had recommended that. We're fine with the language. The only change is this deed restriction, which gives you more flexibility, which is the one put in that's shown here.
Again, my question is, does the sign that was put in the barn now? I'm going to walk out and show it to you. Is that part of this deed restriction, which is fine if it is, that no heavy livestock?
Not. The sign is not listed in the deed restriction. The language is right here. I can read it aloud for you if you'd like, but the sign is not.
I don't need you to read it. I'd like the sign to be part of it because it's specific and it's your writing, okay, in your email that you got sent to us, that no heavy livestock should be allowed over the septic system leaching area, okay, and that's what we put in the barn. And I'd like it to be a part of this because there's a determination. What is heavy livestock? Okay.
Mark, did you have a chance to, or do you have a comment on the sign in the barn?
Yes, I do. The sign was there when I was there. I was just looking at the pictures. I was there on November 2nd. And if the applicant so wishes, if Nathan so wishes to add that to the deed recording, that could be done as well. That's up to the board, but that was more of the decision of the board.
Yeah, if you want us to put in the deed restriction that there has to be a sign and exactly what the sign says, like, we're happy to put that in the deed restriction if that's what you'd like.
I think the way it's written is fine, and you can put that in the deed restriction,
Okay,
okay?
okay. So we can revise this and send you a revised copy to file.
Yes, so then Mr. Berkowitz will need to file the new superseding deed restriction at the registry of deeds, have it notarized and have it filed at the registry of deeds.
Yeah. All right. Any other
Ellen,
questions?
Ellen, are you there?
Yeah, Alan's here. What do you need?
Yes,
It's not what I need, Matt. I'd just like to have her share with Jean our personal condolences tomorrow. Okay, for her loss. Okay, Ron was a dear friend for the last 40 years.
Thank you for that, Mr. Berkowitz.
Okay, we done?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Night.
All right. All right. Don't think we have anything we can do in 2 minutes before the next variance hearing. Unless we think we can discuss the budget amendment in 2 minutes, but that seems unlikely.
No. Just on the agenda, but we can talk about it again later, since other things may come up. Just, I don't want to forget Laurel update, Laurel Farms Wells update.
And if I can
Fields,
just add,
sorry.
once we're done with that variance hearing, we do have, I saw one person at least representing 17 Unity Lane, so they're in the room as well.
Yeah, I think that also is probably not a 1 minute.
That is correct.
All right, I will just start pulling up the Spywood.
in addition, the owner of 198 South Main is here, or he was.
Yes, and I saw the architect here too, so I guess we
Yeah.
have both the items under my business, the two parties are here.
And I think I saw Mr. Murchison and Mr. Andeshang Wang here as well. So I think we've got everybody for everything. All right. Do we have Robert Truax though? That's a good question.
I can tell you for the variance hearing, I do have all the green cards.
Okay.
Everything necessary for the variance hearing was received, so that the hearing can be opened when
All right.
the
Well,
engineer shows up.
yeah, now it is 7:30. I actually do not see the engineer. Is the homeowner here?
Mark, do you have?
I just
Rob's-
texted the
Okay.
engineer asking if he's coming to the meeting, so that text just went out.
Okay, thank you.
I guess we can we open the hearing without him? We probably can, right?
Yeah,
All
you
right.
can-
So I guess we'll open the hearing for the variance request for 21 Spywood. Mark, are you able to give us an overview?
Or and hopefully the engineer will show. I haven't seen a response, but they're planning to do an addition at the house, so we have the building plans for that too. So they're moving the garage, excuse me, sorry, further down. And so in doing that, they have to move the septic tanks further out, plus they have to update the septic system. So when you look at the plan, you'll see the septic tanks are now being placed. Yeah, that might be helpful. The second page there, just enlarge it a little bit. And you'll see the septic tanks towards the end of the new proposed driveway. The driveway goes down now, and the septic tanks are over to the corner of the driveway. And then they're using a dual alternating septic pumps to pump it up to the area where they did the soil testing, and that is going to be the new leaching area. They do need some waivers for that, but as it relates to the waivers, I think they're within reason. Just grabbing the plan, so I'll have it in front of me as well. But that's the intent of the septic plan, is to put the addition onto the house.
And they have an existing 4-bedroom and they're going to a 5-bedroom. Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh, sorry for the noise. Yes, that is correct. 4 to 5. Correct. Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
So maybe we should just take a look at the floor plan. We can probably just go to the proposed. So this is first floor, which looks like family living, presumably eat-in kitchen, sort of with a bar there and office. So 1, 2, 3, I count 4.
Is there, I don't know if there's any issue about sometimes with kind of open plan, we'll assign a few different uses, like the kitchen, there is an eating area possible, and then the living room, and I don't know. So
Yeah,
part of that living room might serve as a dining room, or because there's a separate family room that could easily have been labeled dining room in this case. Is it just 4 rooms on this floor?
That I did see here. They have an office, if you can see it, over to the corner.
Yeah.
Next to the garage, and then that's a farmer's porch, so that's not enclosed. And then they go into the kitchen, the foyer, which may be used for dining, living room, and the family room. So there's your 4 rooms there.
Yeah. So
And
4
then
and
add on someday too. I mean, this is the initial thought process. And then there's your, over the garage is where the master bedroom's going. So that's going to be causing for the 5 bedrooms.
so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms here, all of which are bedrooms. And then
Correct, yeah.
2 in the basement.
Yes, so because the first floor is limited, they're getting that additional, they get up to 11 rooms, so that's where they're getting the additional rooms. 2 on the basement level, 4 on the first floor, 5 on the second. If that's the way the board sees it.
I see it that way. I mean, I think the dining issue is always fraught, but
Yeah.
it's hard to know without a separate space there.
And it is a walk-in area, plus near the stairs, so be hard to, unless they put walls up, it'd be hard to convert that to a room.
Yeah.
Where it says foyer.
I have a little bit of a concern that the basement, given that it does have walkout, and that's something that has been important in our determination in the past, and a full bath, that, it could be viewed as a suite of sorts, master suite or primary suite.
Yeah, there would definitely need to be a note that that bathroom has to remain outside of both rooms. I think their intent was to keep it out of the room to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the living room is open to it, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a deed recording, I think, if it needed to be.
Right. We didn't confront this as much as we do now.
Yeah.
Seems like there's a lot more interest in full bathrooms in the basement lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The deed recording may have to state that the basement cannot be used for bedrooms.
Yeah.
The room count's okay. It's the potential for a bedroom in the basement.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any other comments from the board on room count?
But I guess there'd be that potential even if you have bath, but more of a chance with the full bath next to it.
Yeah.
I agree, Matt, with the 11 count.
I do too.
Me too.
And so, Mark, just to clarify, in the basement, this bath is opening into a hallway. That's what it looks
Yes.
like. Yeah. Okay.
And open to that room, that's open stairwell. I believe that's going down to or up to the living room. If it's labeled living room, living here.
Oh,
The
this
room.
here. Yeah, so this is an
Yes.
opening here, basically.
Yes.
But it looks like there are walls and then there's sort of an open cased opening here rather than it being all one space.
Okay, okay.
All right. I did not see Mr. Truax arrive.
Yeah, I have not had a response from him at all, so not for sure.
And so the variances, it looks like is the two variances requested are sorry. 8.02, which is the installation in an area where groundwater is less than 5 feet below natural surface grade. And then to reduce the setback between the SAS and uphill well at the house, which is the on-property well. And it seems like that's driven largely just by site constraints.
Can I-
Done
Is
this
the
before.
person from 21?
1 second, Rob.
Present.
Just so the board knows, Rob is online with me on the cell phone. I don't know, but he didn't realize he was on tonight. So Rob, can you hear Rob? Say hello, Rob. Make sure they can hear you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for the mix-up.
Can everyone
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're at the point of, we were going over the house plans. Now we're going over the septic plans and the waivers the variances being requested. And I have Rob on speakerphone if anyone has questions.
You there, Mark?
Yeah, I'm here. I have you on speakerphone. I just let the board know I have you on speakerphone if there's any questions. So hang tight, Rob.
I mean, I think we have gone through things. I think the two variances make sense in relation to site constraints. As always, we'd rather you reduce the distance to the on-site well, which is what's done here, which is fine. I don't know, anyone have any other questions about this?
Oh, I thought that oh, okay.
In the 5 feet to groundwater, it's the site conditions.
Correct.
Yes, thank you, Rob. As just pointed out by the engineer. So those are the two waivers that will be needed as requested.
Anyone other questions or discussions, or should we go through the variances?
No, I think, as you said, the site is constrained in a number of different ways, and there really don't seem to be a lot of options that would have accommodated the system.
We didn't have any other options, to be honest.
All right, so having said that, do I have a motion to approve a waiver to section 8.02, which allows the SAS to be installed in an area where the groundwater level is less than 5 feet below natural grade?
So moved.
Moved.
Seconded.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Do I have a motion to grant a waiver to section 10.1 to reduce the setback between the SAS and the on-site uphill well to 106 feet from the 125 feet required?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
And so then are the plans ready for approval, Mark?
Yes, they are. And just so the board knows, this system is using the traditional conventional stone and trench. So they won't need a deed recording for the alternative technology, but they will need a deed recording as it relates to the garbage grinder. So a deed recording indicating the garbage grinder is prohibited based on the design flow to not include a garbage grinder. It will need to be completed as part of the approval.
Right.
And the engineer just said correct.
I realize I'm supposed to close the hearing before we approve the plans, right?
Usually.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll close the hearing and then I'll move on to approving the plans. So hearing's closed. Do I have a motion to approve the plans conditional to a garbage grinder deed recording?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any more discussion on these?
I was thinking about any kind of deed recording regarding use of a basement room as a bedroom, but I think it may not be necessary because it's meeting the not directly connected to a single room, which would be like something on the first floor, and it would apply to the first floor rooms as well. So I don't know that we need that in this case.
And just a note, just so the board knows, as well as the engineer, the septic system would need to be in place prior to any additions at this house.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
yeah.
correct. That's generally rule of thumb.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. As long as the
That actually, the next question then is have they applied for a building permit for the house yet?
I have not seen one yet.
So that would also be our
Yeah,
opportunity
yeah,
to,
Yeah, and the engineer just said he doesn't believe he's applied. So
Yeah,
if he does, I would note that they can't get the building permit until the septic system is completed.
okay. So we have that other check on the room count also to review the plans in case they change.
Yes, it will. If it comes in different from what was presented to the board, then it will need to come back to the board.
Okay. All right, so with that additional discussion, I think we have a motion on the floor to approve the plans. Anyone else have comments? Okay, Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
And Rob, do you have any further comments before I let you go?
all right. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that.
Okay, well, you might want to thank the board.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. I'm really sorry.
Okay. Take care,
No,
Rob.
you made it. It was fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
Take
it was a
care.
straightforward one. All right, anyone have preferences on where we go next? I think everyone is here for all of for sort of chair's business 2 and agent's business 1 and 2.
I think Unity Farm might have signed in first among the people who,
Okay.
as they were signing in this evening.
All right, that's fine. We can start that. Mark, do you have updates you want to share here?
Yes, I do. And I've been in touch with the building commissioner, just so the board knows, and I sent out paperwork on this a while back too, in respect to all the past communications. And back on March 5th of 2019, the building commissioner actually took a look at it as well and noted one of the most important notes here is that he said the second floor can only be used for office space. It cannot be, he said the public area can only be on the first floor. So with that said, the upper floors, he said, it can only be designated for office use by employees only. And he gave us the square footage of the office space at, I lost my spot, 2,330 square feet. And what that would be equivalent to is needing 175 gallons for the second floor. It's based on 75 gallons per 1,000 square feet for the purpose of office space. So in talking with them, if that was subtracted, the 175 from the 660, that would leave 485 gallons left to deal with. Now you'll notice on that occupancy permit you just had up there, I'm sorry, that I think he based it on that because he probably rounded up on the 48.5 or 485 to based on 10 gallons per person. He bumped it up to the 490, which is the 49 you see there is the occupant load. And there's a little give and take with that because some of that occupant load is based on the office use on the second floor. With that said, that is all that the building code can allow. So now it's a matter of just making sure that that's per day, 49 people per day, that the use of the facility, if it includes the ERC, which I know everyone's more interested in that with the 20, I believe, then it would allow for 29 additional. Now, the designer, registered sanitarian, Eric Dickinson, did send us a letter, but he was basing it mostly on people. I did send him everything that I just read from that email, but I think he may have been going off a previous letter from the same company, which was back then owned by Paul Saulnier. And he was trying to look at 71 total people, but with that said, that would be over the maximum allowed gallons per DEP's new requirement that we can't include the garbage grinder for design flow. And he even notes it in his paragraph above the data here. And so with that said, we got 660 gallons to work with, and I believe minus the second floor that they would still have the opportunity to work with 449 occupants, wherever they may be. May they be outside coming in to use the restrooms, or inside doing yoga or recreational events. You know, that would give them that opportunity to use it as needed, just to make sure they don't go over the 49 people based on the building codes. And that would also be based on the septic codes as well.
I was wondering if some of the calculation confusion came from, as you said, Mass DEP has, for camps or daycare kinds of things, 10 gallons a day per child, but for office space or other kind of space, they do it by square footage. So it's, we're mixing apples and oranges truly here in terms of how the count gets done. It's not just a straight number of people.
And I think there are prohibitions as it relates to the building codes and the access use. I'm not the building inspector, but it's commissioner. It's based on, I believe, access to the second floor, where, as he said, it can only be used for office space. So if we stick to the occupancy permit, I think that would give them the opportunity to determine how they want to use the 49 people per day as the additional use of that property for the first floor and the outside use. And someone
Okay,
was
and that
telling
could
me
include whatever goes on in the yurt. It's just
exactly.
however 49 people are
Yeah.
moving about. So
Yeah, and the thing I heard, and I don't know if this is accurate, but there's been mention, I think even at our meeting, our last meeting, that the kids' summer program may not even be part of the use of that building at the time, but say the educational program goes away and they want to back the kids program, then you know, they have the opportunity to mix and match up to 49 people for the first floor and the outside use.
So bottom line is basically 49 fits within the existing capacity, and that can be sort of flexibly allocated. And so if the summer program is not happening the same time as the nature-based program, then like that's not additive.
And they might work together. If the two programs have no more than 49 people, that would work as well. And on weekends, they might have other events going on that don't include the programs mentioned, you know. So it's a mix and match, as long as they stick to the occupancy load that the building commissioner has noted, because that is exactly a reflection of the septic system capacity.
and
I
I
think,
think Sarah is here.
Yeah, I think
I think Dr.
Does
Long-
49 sound like that's workable?
Well, Sarah, certainly we know that the capacity of our 2-year-olds would be something like 20. And when we look at yoga, council on aging, summer go round and all the rest, I think 49 is entirely reasonable, because as you say, you know, we have 12 elders that come once a quarter for an hour. We have 5 yoga students that come once a week for an hour. So I think that's a wonderful solution. So thank you so much.
yeah. And your Title V did pass, just so you know. I spoke to the Title V inspector because he noted it as a house still. So I have a call into the state waiting for a response, but he may have to update page 7 of 18 and page 8 of 18. He right now feels he doesn't need to. So I have a call into the state. That will not affect what we just talked about. That will only affect that this building be described as it is, not as a house, but as a retail not commercial, but as a different use, not a residential use.
A function hall is what it has been described as by the board in the past.
In fact, the building commissioner even wrote that in his email back in May of whatever the date was, 2019. So I think that will fit. It works. The septic system's in good order from the Title V inspection. It passed. So I think I'm satisfied with what's been presented. But in respect to the designer's calculations that came in recently, unfortunately that cannot be used because that goes over 660 gallons per day that the septic system will allow.
All right, seems like this is a satisfactory solution.
Yeah, so I agree. Apples and oranges were being mixed in the computation. Simply say 49 people is the maximum occupancy load, and we have flex to allocate that is perfect.
Yep.
Yes. And there's a little give and take on the second floor. If you have 49 people on site and there's a few people in the office, that's expected because you're already calculated for that flow.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I think from last time, Sarah had a few questions about particularly the gray water from the sink and where to dispose of that.
I can help on that, Juliet. Because of the gray water, there's two solutions. I don't believe they're going to have a porta toilet, but if they have one, they can put it in the porta toilet, or it can be put into a drain. I wouldn't suggest the sink that's being used for food use, but if there's a mop sink or something within the building, that could go in there as well. There may not be as much gray water now since I don't know if the goal is to use the first floor for the people on site for bathrooms but if that's the case, then there would probably be less gray water. But that's the opportunity they could put it into the septic system or into a porta toilet if a porta toilet exists.
Thanks. I appreciate that clarification. Are there any other questions that the board has for Boston Outdoor Preschool Network of any kind that you would need to have answered before making your decision about whether to recommend this program to Chris Canny?
Just one question while we're on it. Sarah, you're speaking, right? It
Yeah.
didn't jump up on the picture, so I wasn't sure who was speaking. What's the gray water for? I forgot what that was going to be for.
The gray water would be for a portable sink inside of the yurt. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's your occupants using it that are allowed to have that same water use on the septic system side of it. So if need be, you could put it down a toilet. But again, you have to discuss this with the owner as well. But that's a possibility. Or you could, if you have a porta toilet on site, you could pour it into that as well.
And we have a laundry sink that would be absolutely perfect for that purpose if need be.
Yes.
Okay, and then the only concern I'd have is if you were planning on doing painting projects or something and then cleaning out brushes and containers, the more you can minimize that going into the septic, the better off the septic will be. So that, and then there are different ways for cleaning brushes or managing things, but it's starts to get trickier.
Yeah, you're better off just pouring it on newspaper or wiping them off with newspaper, throwing that in the trash. Or if you have any other questions on that, you can always call the office.
Yeah. Wrap things in plastic if they're going to be used again in short time to reduce the amount of wastewater that you're generating. And then do as Mark said of just absorb it into paper and dispose of it, newspaper or something.
Yeah, that sounds great. The easel cups are perfect. The child easel cups. Yeah.
And I don't know if our food inspector had any further questions, or a camp inspector in this case, but you could always refer to Tom. Tom was here the last meeting, so he may have some questions before you go for your camp permit.
Great. Just to clarify, we're not a camp. We're not allowed to use the word camp. So we're
you are not. That's correct.
We're Department of Early Education and Care, so we're not going to use the word camp in any of our marketing or literature.
Very, very good. That's very important as well. Thank you.
So as I recall, what you needed from us was sort of endorsement of the local board of health to go to the plumbing board at the state, right?
Well, so we don't need to go to the state plumbing board because the gallons are able to be.
Oh, right. So now that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we would need is just for you to let Chris Canny know, to give him a call and just say, hey, Chris Canny, we have discussed this. Boppin has submitted what they needed to submit. We don't have any further questions for Boppin or for Unity Farm Sanctuary. And he can move forward with his job of getting us the building permit. Now, once we have the building permit.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry,
Once
interrupted.
we have the building permit, then we would be able to get back to the families who've been anxiously waiting and the teachers who are wondering if they have jobs beyond June.
Sure, and the building permits go through the Board of Health as well. But I spoke to Chris today and I will let him know through an email that what he wrote back on May 5th of 2019 would be what the board is going to follow. 49 occupants, second floor only exclusively for office space and to make sure the building permit passes by. And if it passes by with the same concepts with your, I think you have 20 people, 20 attendees, that would be fine, you know, and as the owner of the property knows, it can be mixed and matched with various groups. Just stay at 49 per day, that's all.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your time. If you have any further questions, please just email me or John or Kathy.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
All right. I don't know who is here next, Greenwood Homes or 198 South Main. Do you know, Daryl?
I'm not positive.
I think it was 198 South Main because I saw Rebecca Elsie
Yes,
pretty-
I'm here.
pretty early on.
And also there was some other name that I thought I recognized from.
I think
Well,
Mr.
Dennis-
Plant was.
Yes,
well.
Dennis was
Dennis.
on, but he took off on a flight, so he can't Zoom on the flight.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes, he was on very early. And now I know
Yes.
why he was on so early.
All
Sorry
right.
to know that.
So we can do that next. I'll pull it up. So this was Mark. This is yours also. Do you want to frame it for us while I pull stuff up?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was on mute. This property was reviewed by the board back in 2019. And the board back in that time period was allowing the use of a garbage grinder additional flow, that 50% additional flow that's designed for a septic system, and especially in this case, to be used for a 2-bedroom facility in the barn, and that was conditional to a septic tank being put in at the barn, which they did. But then the owners of that at that time only wanted to put in a grooming facility and I believe a boarding facility for dogs. And that's the way that barn has been set up since that time period. The new owner would like to change it, and we have floor plans to be more of a living space as originally what the past owner wanted to do. The concern here, and that's why I brought it to the board, is, well, 2 reasons I brought it to the board. I'd like you to do a room count to make sure you're in agreement with me on the house as well as the barn. And 2, to go back to that time period of 2019 when that was allowed to use the garbage grinder capacity. In 2020, the year 2020, the DEP noted to us we cannot do that. So now we're at a time when no one can use the additional flow unless it was already there, that being whatever was built. Unfortunately, they didn't build the 2 bedrooms, they built the boarding and the grooming facility. So with that said, we're kind of in a time dilemma now because it's a change of use from what it was, and the state has told us we cannot do that any longer. So Rebecca and I have been talking through the course on different options possibly. One was to, one good thing, the septic system was built after 1995, and maybe to add on to the septic system, right now it has 4 leaching trenches. If they want 2 more bedrooms, they could put in 2 more leaching trenches as long as it meets all the distance requirements, because the soil testing was already done in that area. Or Rebecca, I think you had mentioned maybe putting in a separate leaching field, and I explained to Rebecca, as long as it meets all our requirements for new construction. That's where we're at now, and I wanted the board to look at the floor plans of both the barn that's being proposed as well as the house, and listen to Rebecca and, well, now the owner's not here, but see their view on making sure they understand, not their view, but understand what the DEP has caused in this respect to not be able to change what they have presently. So that I'll leave it at that, and I'll leave it up to the judges to.
Mark, I'm
Yep.
sorry, my recollection is that the system did not require any variances when it was put in.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct?
Yeah, it was built for new construction. Yes.
Yeah. Even though it was replacing a prior house that
Yeah, it
had
would
been
be-
there, but they met, I
correct.
believe
Yep.
they met everything, all the
Yeah,
requirements. Okay.
this is actually a brand new house they built because the existing property back in 2000, I think it was 16. I have everything in front of me. I just got to look at. I buried it under 17 Unity, but the house, the farmhouse that was there was torn down, and they built this new house in the back.
Mhm.
I believe the barn was there during all this time period.
So I think two issues are, one, verifying the room count, and then I think the stickier issue is deciding sort of what it is, what the actual capacity is.
Yes.
Which is a little tricky because we definitely approved it before, and then it's a little tricky to now take it away.
Yes.
But that is sort of consistent with our current practice. So I think why don't we first establish the room count, and then can go from there. So really what we're worried about is the proposed room count, right? Which is starting here. Yes, proposed basement plan. And so I think the first question I had is this finished space in the basement? I know the
Yes, they
storage is not, but this other
correct.
area.
They recently finished that entire area. It's all open.
Okay.
Any additional foundation you see in the back would either be crawl space or unexcavated space.
Okay.
Or storage. I don't know where we're gonna get vertically with those sections yet, so but they would not be finished.
Okay. So really we're at sort of a one room in the basement right now, one big open space realistically. So first
Except
floor,
that full bath there is a bit of a problem.
that is a little tricky, yeah. Is that full bath existing? Sorry, I didn't see that. That
Yes,
is
they
already
just-
there.
Yes.
I don't know
All
how
right,
that
that may have to count as a bedroom. Okay, so we'll get back to that, I guess.
Yeah. So first floor plan. I did not bring my reading glasses, which are new to me. So give me a moment.
Can you-
We,
Matt, I don't have mine either. Could you zoom in a little?
I can make it a little bigger. That's as big as I can see and still see all of your faces. So hang on, let me
So
just
beyond the garage, there's storage space, which would be unfinished storage space.
Okay.
May I ask a question? When you say unfinished, so no finished walls, no finished ceilings, no heat.
No heat, correct.
How
Yeah.
about finished walls and ceilings?
I'm not sure to what capacity they need if they just, do the stud wall and then just leave it bare. It's probably they just need storage for family sports equipment, everything that families have these days. So it doesn't need to be finished.
That would help with the room count.
Okay. To the right of there would be a new office space beyond that mudroom, and then a new den hugging that corner. And so that's the only new proposed construction for the back in that corner of the house. Everything else is existing.
And I
so
believe,
that's
Rebecca, if I did ask you about the, I'm having trouble reading now too. The porch, I think you did put the word, it is conditioned.
On the front, yes, it's conditioned.
Okay, so you have a conditioned porch, that would count as a room, just as we talked about. And then
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, where it gets a little, those are pretty easy to figure out, but it's that big center area that I wanted the board to look at and see how you would define that.
Yeah. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's sort of 6, 7 that are labeled here.
Yeah.
Rooms.
Yeah, I got the same
Breakfast nook.
7.
And would we consider the open dining area part of the kitchen is what it comes down?
Well, but there's a breakfast nook, and that implies
Yeah.
that's the part of the kitchen for sitting down and eating. So
Yeah, I understand.
And so we're at 7, 8 rooms, at least 1 bedroom. And then the second floor is
3.
1, 2, 3 more rooms. So we're at 11 rooms and 4 bedrooms, potentially 5, depending on how we count the basement.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
yes.
And so that's the house. Remind me, Mark, what is the system size?
It's for 4 bedrooms.
It's for a 4-bedroom. All right.
But
So
it also was changed to be for up to 660 gallons with the garbage grinder being deed recorded back in 2019. So that, but then again, as I noted, in 2020, the state said we can no longer do that.
right. So we gave them 2 more bedrooms in 2019
Correct.
by eliminating the garbage grinder. And so we had them at 6 in 2019.
Yes.
But
Originally
then they
designed.
didn't use the 6, so that makes it complicated also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is the existing floor plan for the barn.
Correct. It's currently set up for that grouping use where it has 4 stalls, just the open aisle, and then there's laundry in one of those. Beyond the sink, there's laundry, and then it's not really a kitchen, it's more of just I think there's no stove obviously for this area, so it's just a sink, a fridge, and I think they had a couple freezers or coolers in there. And so the plan would be to open up this entire space. They'd really just use it as a entertaining and recreation space. It wouldn't be like an in-law apartment.
So,
And then
so existing barn is, I guess I count as 3 rooms. Because this is all, is it conditioned space now?
yes,
So 1, call this 2. I don't think stalls count as separate rooms. Although I don't know.
no,
And then a loft will be a 3rd room. And so that implies that the existing room count, we just got 11 with the addition of 2 new rooms. And so the existing room count then would be in the house, right? So I'm just trying to figure out, we actually maybe need to go back.
Oh, yeah, I think you're mixing. What we just counted was the proposed for the
Right.
house.
And so I realized we need to, I want to know the existing, because that, to my
Hmm.
mind, goes to whether they're using the excess capacity already.
Yeah, there is a plan here for existing as well.
Yeah.
think-
So let me go back to that. So this is the existing plan,
Yes.
which is 1 downstairs, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, counting the first floor, 7, 8, 9. Does that make sense? So the existing is 9 in the house plus 3 in the barn. So their existing is 12 rooms, correct? Does everyone agree with that?
That's the way I see it.
Which is a 6-bedroom system, right?
Yeah, 12. Yes, that is correct.
So they're currently using it as a 6-bedroom system in my mind then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then the new house is 11 rooms with the addition of these 2. And then we need to count the new barn, which is a little tricky.
Yeah.
I think this is 2.
Yeah, you have the kitchen that has its own use right there. Yeah. And then how you want to compare that large area again, how you want to determine it.
Yeah. And then the second floor is 3, I would say.
Yeah, I'm getting 3 on the second floor and
Yes.
2 on the first floor.
So that's 5 rooms.
And what it's got going for it is no full bath.
Yep. So no bedrooms here.
Yeah.
Is that right,
Although,
Rebecca?
the-
No full
the
bath.
ad- I'm sorry. didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm sorry, I
Correct.
just wanted to confirm with, yeah, thank you, Rebecca.
Okay.
And
So
the
but that still puts us at 16 rooms for the whole property.
yeah, I have 17 actually.
17.
Barn's got the 5, and then the house has existing. Oh, we're not looking at these. It has 11. You are right, 16. I was looking at the proposed existing. The note I wanted to make too is, do we treat the barn the same way we do a house where any room above the first floor is considered a bedroom?
I think because there are no full baths, it would be like a room above the garage that wasn't connected to any other bathrooms, is how I was viewing it.
Yeah, that's how I would view it. Although I think our bigger problem here is total room count rather than
Yeah, that's a
bedroom
long
count.
way to go.
Yeah.
Because I think sort of the max total number of rooms on a 6. I mean, I think so. This is actually reversing what I thought was the trickiness. So I think if we think about what the capacity is, it seems to me that they've. Sorry, I'm trying to move everyone's face so that I at least look like I'm looking at you. So I think the existing configuration is 12 rooms, and so they are using a 6-bedroom system currently. And so I'm sort of inclined, based on that, to allow the prior determination of the board that this was a 6-bedroom system with a garbage grinder prohibition to stand, because that's the way it's been. The trickier problem is that, as proposed here, they need an 8-bedroom system with this number of rooms, right? I mean, I think room for debate on the first point, and I'll happy to hear other people's opinions, but at 16, like, there's no way a 6-bedroom system can support 16 rooms.
Okay, so if I just took the build on the prior interpretation and leave that for the moment as a given, then what Mark was mentioning earlier, which is because the system is a post 1995 current Title V regulations system and it had no variances, it can be expanded. And then they would need to do the evaluation to look at what that would take. Are the soils appropriate, that kind of thing. So
yeah, so I think we're in a place where the existing system could support no more than 13 rooms total, but there is an option to expand the system if they want to go more. At least that's where I land on this.
They may need, if we go to 16 rooms, that's an 8-bedroom. 200% of that would be, let's see, 880 times 2 is 1660, I believe, or 1760. So with that said, they may need to increase one of their tanks, because I believe they only have 2 1,500-gallon tanks on site, septic tanks. And the leaching field obviously would have to be added on to also, but that can all be done through an engineering reviews.
and would they have to increase the tank size versus add another tank?
Because tanks are hard to increase in size, they're just precast concrete. They may have to add another tank.
Okay.
There are already 2 tanks on the site.
Yes, they're both 1,500, I believe, so they have 3,000.
I think the one closer to the house might be larger than the 1,500.
Okay, we can look at that then. I wouldn't worry much about that then right now. If that's the case, that would be great. But usually,
I believe it is.
Yeah, usually for a 4-bedroom, the tank size is usually 1,500, but we can look at that.
Okay.
We can right now, actually. We have the plans here.
Sort of.
Can you zoom in, Matt?
I can try.
I vaguely recall it being 2,000, which I was a little surprised to see, but I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yes, I think you're right, Julie, because I have a really muddy copy of it, and it's really the detail of the tank itself, which is usually at the top left of the page.
Yeah.
I think this is small.
Here we go.
Click.
Oh, you can't get past that. Okay.
I can't get. There isn't. The rest of it isn't here. Is the problem?
That's fine.
Yeah, the scanner didn't work for me, so I couldn't.
I have a copy if you'd like me to share it. It's really hard to read.
I mean, that sort of isn't an issue for the moment.
Okay.
Because regardless, they would have to come back. They would have to come back for the tank size only matters if they increase the leaching field size, and they'd have to sort of come back to review that at that point anyway.
Okay.
So I think the information to give right now is that it has been being used as a 6-bedroom system based on the prior board's approval. I'm inclined to let that stand. But that means they're limited to 13 rooms total with any expansion unless they expand the septic system. Does the board agree with that assessment?
Yes. And I think we need to make sure that, that it'll be captured in the minutes. I don't know if we need something else to alert future people. Again, we're building on an interpretation that was made before we had DEP input on that garbage grinder capacity. Although, because it was built without variances, I mean, part of me says that it would have been buildable as a 6-bedroom right off the bat. So,
right. And it's currently deed recorded to not allow the garbage grinder. So it's deed recorded now as a 6-bedroom system, which was built without variances. And so I think that that's reasonable.
Yes. I wouldn't want to repeat it again now with the new guidance from DEP.
Yeah, but I think if we previously interpreted something and reconfigured it as that prior to the guidance, I think we have to let that stand. But I wouldn't, if someone came to us now and wanted to redo it, I certainly wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So really, I think the issue is the homeowners need to decide if they want a bigger septic or fewer new rooms. Does that make sense, Rebecca?
Unfortunately, yes.
Country living.
Yeah, never easy.
Nope.
Or dense country. Makes it tougher.
I can tell you, I'd love a few more rooms, but don't have the capacity for it. So it's always a struggle. All right. Any other questions on this?
No.
Okay.
And given that bedroom count that comes out, even though 8 bedrooms aren't planned, that makes the full bathroom in the basement of the main house fine at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Rebecca, for coming and for your patience.
Thank you.
All right. So I think next, I will also thank Desheng and Bob for their patience, and I think we can move on to the Greenwood Homes. I know we had sent a letter, Mark, you had sent a letter to Desheng and got a response. I don't think I have the response here in the document, so I may take a moment to try to find it so I can pull that up. Does that make sense to everyone on the board?
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, so let me just stop sharing for a moment while I find that.
The response was not in our document
It was not. It was not.
Okay.
It just came in yesterday.
That was received yesterday afternoon.
If you're not finding it, I have it and can share it.
I just got it. I'm just getting it opened up.
Okay.
And then I can share that. All right. Is everyone seeing that okay?
Can you zoom it a tiny bit more, Matt?
Maybe. Hang on.
Oh, yeah, that's weird. We're cutting off parts of it.
I can make it bigger.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Because it's a document on my computer. It's not in Google Drive. So
Perfect. Thank you.
is that better?
That helps a lot.
All right. Mark, do you want to maybe walk us through the remaining issues here? I feel like I'm relying on you more than usual tonight, Mark.
That's okay. I reviewed the septic plan and sent out a letter to the owner, and I received a response to The deficiency letter, it was sent out on November 27th. And there were a few things that on the letter, the majority of the letter was Title V requirements. The proposed wells, they indicated back in the letter here. So we can go through each one if that's easier. But the engineer, I'm going to review the hard copies. It's a little bit easier, but I trust what the engineer wrote is accurate. I just have to compare it to the septic plan. But so the owner's name, he said he put back on the plans, not put back on, but he put the owner's name on the plan with the address, as well as number 2 was minor too, just to note the plan shows a septic and well. But again, I think it's the third item, just so the board knows at this present time, the applicant wishes not to go forward with the well in the fee and the well applications at this time. They're presenting this plan as a Title V septic system plan. And then that was number 3, and it's noted in the blue response that it's the requirements of Title V. The septic system is designed only under Title V. So at this point, we're not for sure what will happen in respect to the use of the local regulations for the well, or if there's going to be other requests. That we don't know. 4 talks about if there were variances being requested, such as the well regulations. At this point, it's noted again, the plan is only for Title V purposes. And that if needed, they talk about from any local bylaw will be dealt in the ZBA comprehensive permit, and that's under number 4. I spoke to the state again today. I spoke to them before the deficiency letter was sent out, and there's still some concern with the legal boundaries. And I'm dealing with Claire Golden at the state, and she did indicate that legal boundaries are required. And where we're seeing an issue is the well that's at 34 Greenwood, that abuts lot 1 Greenwood. That well was shown on a surveyed plan as being 25 feet off a property line. So we're not for sure if that surveyed property line may have been inaccurate. There's no way of knowing, but it was submitted as being legal boundary lines, and now we're seeing it shown only 5 feet from the proposed property line. So that's what brought this to light, was one, the notes in number 10 and 11 on the septic plan saying these are not 100% accurate. What the note said is that they're estimates, and that's on the septic plans. I can read the wording on the septic plan if you'd like, but that's still up for discussion, and may need further review at the DEP level. But I did quote the section that states they need the legal boundaries, and this was restated in the response from the engineer.
So has this been done differently than plans that we typically receive, which are done by surveyors? And
to answer that, Daryl, this is the first time I've seen it done this way, and it might be new
Okay.
technology that's come about, and they now use technology that uses the satellites or whatever they use. But under note 10, I can read the 2 notes. It says this plan is not intended to represent an on-the-ground topographical survey. Contours shown have been generated from GIS data and are for conceptual purposes only. Number 11 says this plan is not intended to represent a boundary survey. Property lines and easements shown are approximate. And so that's why I put that note in there, because before I sent the letter out, the deficiency letter, I did speak to Claire Golden at DEP, and she even indicated, no, it says right in Title V, you need legal boundaries. So we'll see where it goes. I think they're
right,
waiting.
it does.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it makes it a little tricky since so many things in Title V are based on distances to other infrastructure or features, to not have precise numbers.
Yeah.
So I just want to know
measurements.
Rebecca's raised her hand a couple times. I just want to give her a chance to comment here. Rebecca, did you want to say something?
She's on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, I didn't remember that I was still back on mute. Sorry. Is there where the percolation rate findings from the testing recorded?
Which question is that about? Which item number here?
I did ask for the elevations of the percolation test. Maybe
Okay.
that's where it's coming from. And the
Yeah.
perk tests were not shown on the plot plan, although they did do the percolation test, and I have drawings of where they were located in my field book, but they were done. They were done. It's just they weren't shown on the plan. According to the engineer, they are now shown on the plan under number 7 there. And the elevations, I'll double check to determine if elevations are needed or not, but I believe you need the elevations about the deep holes in the perk test per Title V. But I'll double check that.
So it seems to me, to just sort of summarize here, and then I know Deshang and Bobby both have comments, but I think we'll all come to you after the board talks.
Yeah, the
it seems to
majority
me
of
that, like,
them,
most of these are addressable things. It sounds like the sort of stickier points are the legal boundary question, which you're still in sort of discussion with the state. So I think we're just waiting on more clarification there. And then the issue of the wells, because the wells do sort of end up falling under our regulations. And I think the indication here is that the well will be submitted separately. However, our current indications do require all of this to be submitted concurrently.
and if I can just add one additional one to summarize them.
Yeah.
I spoke to Claire Golden, as I noted today, from DEP, and I've always been told Title V looks at the most conservative situations. So in respect to the class of soil they were using for determining the design flow, they need to use the higher perk rate. So that came right from the state. So that will need to be addressed, because they thought they could, because there was more of the other type of soil, they could use it. But you need to, I explained that to Claire, and she said, you need to be, Title V takes the most conservative approach. So that would have to be changed to update it to the higher class rate, which doesn't change the size of the system that much. It's a small percentage, but that's per Title V.
Okay. So that seems like a straightforward answered sort of issue that needs to be addressed.
Once I review the hard copies, I'll send another letter out explaining it. That's why I only asked for 2 hard copies, one for our official file of the plan and one I can review so I can respond back to the engineer and the owner.
And I think the other issue is usually in terms of providing housing on a property. Step number 1 is access to water. Step number 2 is septic. So I guess we'd be reviewing these, it'd be at risk of whether the wells would be compliant subsequent to the septic evaluation.
Yeah, and I think we did just have a new regulations that require both of those concurrently. Am I wrong about that? But I think the question is, how does that apply? This is the 40B, so it's a little bit of a different process, right? And so I think I am for myself unclear on that. If this were an individual single family home coming to us, we would now under our new and current regulations require the well and septic to be presented concurrently.
We have been instructed by ZBA to follow our processes.
Okay.
And the other one was
in terms of technical evaluation. So
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, Daryl, but that brought to mind, we don't usually review a plan until we get conservation approval, but it was noted why they decided not to have conservation approval prior, and that's in the lower ends. If you go down one more, that was the notes, so forth and so on, they weren't deficiencies. It was just noting past. You gotta go past way down to the end there, and it just I left notes.
Oh, there we go.
Deficiency letter. They were only notes, but just about the Conservation Commission and about the wells and the elevations, and they've answered it to the point where they feel it's under a comprehensive permit, and they were planning conservation after the ZBA comprehensive permit process, as noted right there. And there's some other notes there as well. And the one that we don't normally see for new construction is deed recordings for the room count. That's under note G. But they're planning to do deed restricted to 4 bedrooms, eliminating the room count that we normally do under Title V. So, that'll be another process that we would follow Title V to see where a deed recording could be allowed. You normally on a 4 bedroom, you can't go past 9 rooms. I don't know right now, unless the applicant wishes to disclose it, if they're planning to go more than 9 rooms. That's all. No.
So I think, I think the biggest, I think most of these, it just needs your review of the plan and see, I think most of the stuff has been addressed, and then there's some other issues that are straightforward. In my mind, I think the real issue is that our typical process would be, we need a well at the same time. And that we understand this is a septic only under Title V, but absent sort of state regulations on the process for the well approval, it falls to us. And our current process is to require the well application at the same time as the septic application.
Let me know, Matt, when you'd like me to respond, if you'd like.
I think first I'll just see if there's any other comment from the board, and then I can come to you. Anyone else have questions or comments on that? Okay, Bob, you can go ahead then.
Sure. So, I think there's a bit of confusion about the process here. This is all four of these applications are Title V septic applications. That's all they are. That's all we are allowed to bring to you. All of the other issues under Chapter 40B are dealt with by the ZBA. Now, as you guys know, you have a lot of input to the ZBA, but that's not for tonight's discussion, right? In other words, the vast majority of the things in the deficiency letter related to things that you would want to bring up and discuss with us with the ZBA as part of the ZBA hearing process. That's the proper format for most of the deficiencies that have been mentioned. With regard to the well, so Title V has a requirement about a distance to a well. And we have shown you on our Title V application where the well will be located, and we've shown those distances, and we're compliant with those Title V distances. Frankly, we're almost compliant. Well, we are compliant in several cases, and we're almost compliant in other cases with the local regulations. But set that aside because it's not really relevant to this process. In the Title V application, we've shown you the location of the well, and we've shown you the distance to the septic system that we're proposing, and that's the requirement of Title V. And we can't kind of talk about the wells and the distance. For example, one of the deficiencies noted is that the well is shown only 11 feet from the property line. That's true, it is 11 feet from the property line, but that's not an issue for a Title V application. If you'd like to bring up with the ZBA and say, hey, our distance to a property line is 25 feet, if I recall, you're welcome to ask ZBA to uphold the local regulation of 25 feet and say, no, we can't put the well 11 feet from the property line. You're welcome to do that, but that's not for this discussion about a Title V application. We're in a very, very narrow conversation here tonight on our 4 Title V applications. And I'm very happy to talk about all of the concerns you have relative to Title V, but the rest of it, it happens to be the next ZBA hearing, as you probably know, is a week from tomorrow night. And I'm happy to discuss all of these issues if it's the desire of the ZBA to have those conversations. I'm happy to talk about all of this with you at that time, but it's not for tonight. Tonight is only about a Title V application for 4 homes on Greenwood Street. And even if I wanted to, it's not for me to make up the process. The process is very, very well defined under Chapter 40B. And so we're here tonight to talk specifically about your concerns on these 4 systems with regard to Title V issues. And I'm happy to, for example, talk about, Mark does mention Title V in the legal boundaries note, and I'm happy to address that. But, with regard to the wells, other than the fact that we meet the Title V distance, which is 100 feet, there's not much really beyond that to talk about in the wells. Does that make sense?
It does. I think the conflicting guidance we're getting is ZBA is telling us to follow our usual process, and our usual process is to consider a septic application, whatever it is, in the context of a well application. And so that's where I think we're running into stickiness. And I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying that this is it's a change in our process that we recently codified, and so I'm just trying to work our way through it.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, Matt, I don't believe have been on the board and gone through a 40B permitting process. I know Daryl has. But like I said, I mean, we've got a very prescribed process that we're in. And my job is to bring you 4 Title V applications for 4 septic systems on Greenwood Street. And I've done that. And I'm happy to discuss any concerns you have with regard to Title V tonight. Beyond that, we need to do that next Thursday night in front of ZBA. And you have every right to express your concerns. I mean, I know you will, and you have every right to, but not tonight. Tonight is Title V only. Like I said, I mean, I'd love to talk about the Title V issues with you because we believe we are in compliance with Title V on all 4 of these plans, and that you should vote to approve them.
So, yeah. So I mean, I think the other issue we have here is that we don't have a final review of the plans, and so we probably aren't going to like we unfortunately don't have the updated plans, and so we're probably not going to vote to approve them right now, just because we haven't. Mark has not had a chance to fully review them. It looks like you've addressed most of the issues, but I think it's unlikely we're going to vote tonight on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to talk about the issue with legal boundaries. I mean, the survey is a typical survey. I cannot do, this is, as you probably know, these 4 lots are being carved out of a larger piece of property. I can't actually do the final A&R with the meets and bounds until the ZBA has approved the project, which probably will happen in the next 6 weeks or so. But I can't give you the meets and bounds. What I can tell you, and if you read the language we gave you, is this is not off. You know, this is off by inches. We're not talking about something that's material to your review of our Title V application. These are proper legal boundaries.
Yeah, and I think we're just waiting on some additional clarification on that, which may well come down and say, yeah, this is fine. So I think that's, we are seeking clarification on that right now, and I think at this point we haven't determined one way or the other whether this is acceptable. I think we need additional. Mark has looked at for some additional input, and hopefully we will achieve that soon.
Okay.
And actually,
to go through some of the other Title V concerns. I mean, we've answered them. I think pretty. You know, we took some time to try to carefully craft answers that we hoped would be clear to you. I'm happy to go through them, and Deshane can answer any questions that you have that are more technical in nature. I mean, for example, you know, I'd love to have Deshane tonight speak to the issue of the class of soils. If you look at our answer to that, Deshane is pretty definitive in his answer as a soils engineer about the class of soils issue. And you know, I'd like to have Deshane speak to that to you all, if you're okay with that.
So let me first see. I think that's one thing we can address. I think part of what I just want to do is make sure and see, like, I don't want to go, we don't need to go point by point through you, because I think some of these are just very straightforward. And so I just want to see where the board has questions.
Great. Thank you.
And so I think my one question was the process issue on the wells. It sounds like we want to discuss in a moment the soils analysis. And then are there any other board members that have specific questions here that for Mr. Murchison or Deshane Wang?
I just wanted to ask about surveyor plans. Shouldn't we as a Board of Health see that information before we vote?
I don't think we're going to be voting tonight.
But you do have the surveyed plan. You do have a survey.
Mark or Bob, just give me a second.
Yeah.
We do. It wasn't distributed to the full board, so I think not everyone has seen it yet, which is why we're not going to be voting tonight. And Mark is still going to review them. But Rebecca, yes, we got those in an email. I got those just in an email today, and not everyone has seen it. We'll make sure before we vote that everyone has a chance to look at those.
And also, just to keep in mind, the reason that we are discussing Title V and our regulations and subtle distinctions and just a few feet here and there is because with affordable housing, it's important that the drinking water is safe. And that's the whole reason we're having this conversation, because it's our board's jurisdiction and we have to take the responsibility for making sure the water is safe. So we need this information, and every little inch has to be precisely indicated for us to be able to make an assessment.
Yeah.
The quality of the
Um,
survey that
ju-
we're working
ju-
with
just-
is
just-
exactly the same as the surveys you work with and approve
Yeah,
all the
and
time.
Bob, that's fine. I
Just
think the
to
issue here is
see
just
it.
that the board hasn't seen it yet, and we're waiting on a
Well, no,
clarification.
no, sorry, Matt, may I clarify?
Yeah.
The plan, the original plan and the title, in the Title V application that we submitted on October the 25th has the same plan that I sent yesterday. What we, the few changes we made were in response to Mark's comments, but the survey.
Yeah, I
survey is
understand that, and
exactly
I'm
the
just saying
same.
that the whole board saw the plans before.
Yeah.
They haven't seen the updated plans
Yeah.
with the revisions, and so we're not going to vote tonight on the updated plans until everybody sees it. That's the only point I want to make here. Does anyone else have other topics here from the letter that they would like us to specifically discuss, or should I move on to look at the soil testing?
I mean,
portion?
we should really be conditioning this, any approval on the receipt of the waivers that you're seeking.
So Rebecca, we're not doing any approval tonight, just to be clear, because we're
I'm
still
just saying in the
waiting on
future.
the final
I'm
plans.
just
Yeah, that's
suggesting
fair.
that to the board.
And to
but you might
to clarify, we are not seeking any waivers from Title V. We are seeking no waivers here
But
tonight.
you're seeking waivers from the local regulations, which
No,
apply.
no,
to
well,
Sherborn.
no, not tonight. I have submitted a Title V application and we are seeking no waivers under Title V on this application. You are right that we will ask for waivers through the ZBA process. That's correct. But that's not what we're doing tonight. We're talking about a Title V application, and we
Right.
are not seeking any waivers. I just want to make that very, very clear to everyone. Thank you.
You're
And so
very
there will be
clear,
an opportunity to
and maybe
discuss the
you
Sherborn
can-
waivers at the ZBA hearing.
Yeah, maybe
Correct.
this just helps you because Daryl mentioned that ZBA asked us to enforce our local regs, and
No,
They-
follow
They
our
asked us
process.
to follow our
Follow
process.
our process. I did not say local regs.
well, maybe this can help you prepare for the meeting so that you have that information for the waivers from the local regulations that you're going to request at that meeting.
You are more than welcome to discuss those concerns about local waivers, and then you're welcome to bring them to the ZBA. That's the proper process, and we can discuss them at length a week from tomorrow night. But tonight, we are here to talk about 4 Title V applications, and we are not seeking any waivers.
Okay, so I think we just need to sort of move on from this because we're talking in circles. Are there any questions on anything else specifically, or should we talk about the soil classification?
Soil classification and a few field notes comments, but soil classification first is fine.
Okay, so Mark, is this the appropriate, am I in the right section here?
Yeah,
It's
it would
probably
be
each
under
of the
lot 1 and lot 2. Deschang took care of the model colors and all that. I just got to see it on the plan. But on lot 1, I believe right there, number 5, the class soil is based on the percolation rate, the most conservative rate, according to what I spoke with when I spoke to Claire Golden, as well as for my past trainings in Title V. So they're presently using a class 1 soil, and I know the engineer feels that's the majority of the soil, but again, Title V requires that it be the most conservative approach, and that would be the class 2 soil.
Deschang, do you have a comment on that? I mean, we've gotten pretty clear guidance on this.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to, at the time when we were in the field, Mark and I just said, well, it looks like it's sandy loam to loamy sand. So we kind of use that indication, but at that time we probably didn't do the perk. I think we can discuss this. If you're looking on the perk rate under 5 for lot 1, the perk rate is 3 minutes and 5 minutes per inch. So it's a really fast perk, and then so with the perk rate and with the uncertainty at the time when we look at the soil together, we definitely agree that soil is not just purely agreed on whether it's a loamy sand or it's a sandy loam. We just said, why not we just call sandy loam to loamy sand. But I feel when the perk rate coming out, I feel that soils I would call more as loamy sand rather than sandy loam. And that's just so it's my opinion based on the holistic view. And if you look in 4 lots, so for 12 test pit, it probably 1 or 2 we labeled say loamy sand, sandy loam to loamy sand, only 2. The rest of it is all coarse medium loamy sand. So I think it's just that the judgment at that moment without getting the perk rate. And then if we have to call them all class 2, I feel we're taking, it's not just conservative. I think it's just discretion without justification at the time when we did the soil log. But if you really look in the perk rate, in my experience doing, hundreds of soil testing, I feel the site is definitely medium loamy sand soils, which would be class 1.
So Mark, do you want to just respond to that?
Yes,
Or-
and again, I understand what Deisheng's trying to say, and I respect what he's saying. But again, Title V makes you use the most conservative information you have, and that's just the way Title V is worded. And the reason for that is if there was ever, say, a failure, and that was there, how would we know what the rest of that ground was like? That's why we had to describe it, because it was showing a sandy loam and also a loamy sand. Maybe the majority, and I'm looking at the soil test for lot 1, had more loamy sand than sandy loam, but at the same time it had sandy loam, and that state has indicated you used the more conservative approach, and that's why it was noted in the deficiency letter. And just so the board knows, for this one here, if they were going from, I just want to check the perks, they were 5 and a 3, and so it would go from 0.74 to 0.60. So there's a 0.14 difference in the two. It's not a big.
Yeah, we can accommodate it. I'm just want to feel, so from my design perspective, I
respect your opinion too, Deisheng.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate it, but at this point, when we clarified it, and so I will discuss with Bob and then looking on the plan if we that's the part, the final mile we have to walk to. We probably can extend. I just feel it's with that kind of good rate, I just feel probably not. So to my but yeah, well, with all said, as I said, I respect the opinion, but I would like to do a little bit of homework. Maybe I would discuss that with Clear myself, just see. I like seeking some kind of future, and I would be a little bit more clear. So when we do the soil log, maybe at the time I would hold on the loamy sand rather than agree, giving a little flexibility at the side to, I feel more flexible to be clarified. It's almost like you're assuming to give that one until we confirm with the rate. But yeah, I like to get a little bit discussions, but obviously this is like some kind of opinion and interpretation perspective. So I would do a little bit, but as if we have to do it, we have the room. We can make I think it's just the pipe from 40 to 50 feet. So.
If not for the change in the size of the system, would you not agree that using the more conservative measure is also just more protective of groundwater quality?
Or gravity?
Groundwater quality, groundwater, not gravity.
No, I said no. For a gravity system, what I mean is, so most of the gravity systems, most of the water will not actually spread really to the full fields. They basically kind of progressive, and yeah, I mean, qualitatively speaking, if you can uniformly spread into much bigger areas, always be better. But it's just the trading of the economy and the feasibility, and whether you can get you will the investment you can get to achieve just but as I said, the law is a law, we will obey it. I don't think we need to too much, just like in the groundwater separation, if you look in 50 states, 40 states don't require 2 feet separation, but here we get so much, I don't think you get that much benefit compared with how much hardship we have to overcome. But that's just opinion, and so we will follow the law, and as I said, to look in all the 4 lots. I think it's just 1 or 2 test that we labeled as low
I think it was
Sandy
just-
low to low sand. We'll clarify.
Yeah, I think it was just 1 and 2 here.
Right.
Rebecca, do you have a comment?
I just had a question, just information. Do we have any historical information on this lot as far as perk testing and other soil evaluations in the past? Is there any data? Does the
Yes,
board have anything?
if I may answer that, we do. There was a previous applicant that went out there and did the soil testing as well. So we have other data that is on file. They submitted their soil test report, so that data is also available.
We even actually find some old wells on site, and we checked on it was dry in the high water time, so it's consistent pretty much. That's what we observed.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. Would you repeat what you just said, Mr. Wang?
As I said, we did some old monitoring wells on site, some of them just next to ours, and we did checking on the wells. Almost all the wells was dry, even at the high groundwater season.
Thanks.
All right, I think Daryl, you had said there were a couple other issues you wanted to discuss.
There were just some comments. I assume that actually Mark and DeShang will be discussing it further.
I would like to maybe comment on just one. It's just for the thought modeling exercise. So we understand for the legal boundary setback, when we presented the plan for design as a surveyor presented as a boundary, it's not dispute, nobody dispute the surveyor because that's their professional duty and the legal right to giving us the lot line, and we have to assume that lot line is accurate to use. And when we are done, we are going to provide a definitive plan division, so A&R lot plan. At that time, we'll be verifying if that lot line result in any change, we will have to modify if our plan doesn't meet those setbacks. That's what I understand. So we presenting, even it's a design line, is not totally 100% legal line yet, but that's we'll have to hold on the assumption that that line is accurate until proved later on is wrong, because as Bob just said, we cannot finalize the means and bounds until we get the comprehensive plan approved. Then we can go to finalize that legal line. But for design assumption, we have to assume it's accurate for review. Unless later on prove it's wrong, then we have to come into you to an amendment or whatever have to do. That's my understanding of the Title V design from my experience. Just like a subdivision line. So.
All right, so I think soil testing results, lot lines have been discussed. Was there anything else, Daryl?
Just for some of the field notes and the harmonizing of, Mark, what you observed and what was presented, such as Lot 2, Greenwood Street, number 4.
So what I have on the screen right here.
0.4, yes.
And I would suggest that DeShang and the owner is welcome to be at the office as well, that we sit down and compare our field notes. I have my field notes available. I took pictures of them, and we could do that to see why my field notes may vary from DeShang's. And as I said, the owner can be there as well to see our review. But I think that would make it a quicker process if we do it that way.
Yeah, sure. So Mark, just so simple, that most discretion ones was a lot to that. If you remember, there was a test pit 2.2 close to Greenwood Street. We find a higher model and we abandoned that, which is outside of the Legion field. So that's, and I think maybe at the one when we found is the groundwater depths, all that things was kind of basically due to the eliminate of that test pit, and it was shifted just to line with the different test pit maybe in the process when I pass my notes to you, but we can definitely will be happy to go over in detail with you in the office.
So,
Okay, I
was
agree
there
that's
anything else?
better handled by Mark and Deshang.
yeah, that doesn't need to be sort of adjudicated in real time now. I think the two of you meeting will sort of harmonize this, and that should address most of this.
Right.
Anything else we should discuss for the full board, or should we sort of say next steps are Mark?
Well, and just what we have,
ahead.
Deshang, I will talk to you, Deshang, about the purpose of the walls. I know you said there's no walls, but you have two structures on lot 2 that show TOW and BOW, bottom of wall, top of wall. So those were the ones, and I'll share the plan with you so we can look at that together and show
I
you.
think the confusion, Mark, on that was the labeling was near the property line, and you took it to mean that the top of wall was on the property line when it
No.
actually was an arrow pointing to an area much further away.
No, actually, it was the walls that, well, it says TOW, BOW, right to the house, the back side of the house. So I think it's easier for Deshang and I to sit down. You're welcome to be there, Bob, so I can point out what I was reviewing, and that's why I was questioning what the purpose of the walls were. And they probably have, just to know, they probably have no bearing on the septic system, but they are on the plan, and I was just curious why they're there. It might be to get access out of the basement, but there are walls shown on that plan, but they're probably not related to the septic. I just wanted to know what they were
No,
for.
I agree, Mark. There are walls shown on the plan. Yes. I
Not
just
on the
don't agree
property
that they're
line.
at the property line. That's all.
Okay. So Mark and Deshang
That was a
and
typo.
Bob should all meet and sort of sort out some of these things.
Can I just ask a process question, Matt? Can our discussions of this with Mark and anything written and any further communication with us, I would ask that it focus solely on Title V concerns, because it gets very confusing when a lot of the concerns are really should be in front of ZBA and not in this conversation. And I know it's different from your normal process, and I get that, but we all have an obligation to follow the process of Chapter 40B, and so if we could, just zero in on Title V concerns, I think we can pretty quickly get this done. It was a little difficult for us to deal with this letter because it had, the vast majority of these things were not related to Title V.
So related to that, when will we have the information about the wells? Since we do need to be able to comment to ZBA.
I'm not sure, Daryl, if you could be more specific. We've shown well locations. What further information would you like from us? I'm happy to try to get it for you.
I don't know, whatever Mark needs to know. I'll leave that to him, but
I mean, I can't answer questions that you don't give to me. I want to get this done. I want to tell you everything you want.
So I think we're happy to sort of go through this and say, yes, the wells meet Title V, and then make further comment where they don't to ZBA.
Perfect.
I think the sort of one process thing that's different here is that our current process, you're showing us the wells, but our current process requires a well permanent fee to be submitted as part of the application. That doesn't specify whether Title V or not. It just says when you apply for a septic system, we also need a well application. And so I think that's sort of the one piece that was missing here. I agree that we can say these wells meet Title V, and then we could express to ZBA that we think they should also meet Sherborn. That makes sense. But we don't have sort of the well application yet, and our process is to require that at the same time we get the
right.
septic
But Matt, Title V does not require that, and we need you to give us an answer. Do you approve or disapprove of our submittal of a Title V application. That's a very
Does
specific.
does Title
ask.
V
Title
speak
V
to well
requires
permitting? It
surveyed-
speaks to well distances.
I'm sorry, Matt. I couldn't understand you because Rebecca said.
Sorry, go ahead, Rebecca. You had your hand up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've had my hand up for a long time. First of all, Title V does require surveyed plans. You have not provided those to us, so it's not
We
fair.
we
Okay.
have
Rebecca,
provided
he
survey
has
plans.
provided those to us. We just didn't have them for this meeting. I don't have them on the screen right now.
Okay. A moment ago, Mark or somebody said something about, this is all we need. I think that everything should be an open meeting for this issue because it affects the town as a whole. And we are a board that is, has the jurisdiction over private water supplies. It's great and it's true that that Chapter 40B requires Title V, but it's also true that we have private water supplies, in which case the state has given the local board of health the authority to regulate the water, drinking water. So there's a fine line between saying, oh, it doesn't apply, because it does apply, and our jurisdiction does apply together with the zoning board. And
I didn't say that your regulations don't apply, Rebecca. I simply said that your regulations will be considered by the ZBA in their process, and that's what we have to do. It's not in the private well supply is not in your purview directly with us. It's within your purview to make your case to the ZBA, and they will make a final decision. And that's the process.
Which is why we need you to provide accurate plans, which include feet, inches, whatever the regulations.
Rebecca, we've been over the plan thing a million times. Like, he gave us plans. We just don't have the updated ones in time for tonight's meeting. Mark is going to review those plans and we will have them to review. So I think we're not approving anything tonight. We will have those plans to look at. Like, I think we just need to stop sort of talking about that. I think for the issue of the well permit, I would like to go back to ZBA, get their opinion on it. I maybe want to go to council and get their opinion on it, and then we can come back to you on it. Does that sound fine?
And that's a great idea. I have no complaint with that.
Okay.
Ask ZBA about the process. Ask your council about the process. Obviously, I'm speaking, because my council has told me how this works.
Yeah, and so I think we just should also talk to ours, and then we can come to an agreement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we'll get to a better place if everybody's well informed on the law. I totally agree with that.
Okay, so I think next steps are Mark is going to meet with DeShang to sort of iron out some final questions. We will get a chance for the full board to review the updated plans. We will provide additional comments to ZBA, and I think we will reach out to council on sort of interpretation on sort of the intersection of our requirements in Title V on well permitting. Does that seem like a fair summary?
Yes. Clear to me.
Is the board in agreement with that for next immediate steps?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we need to vote to authorize someone to reach out to council? I can never remember how that works.
Yes, we should agree on what we want to reach out to them about, and then I'd be happy to work on it with Ellen.
Okay. So I think, it's
Or
in my mind,
Mark.
the narrow
Mark,
question is understanding whether our current regulation to require the well permit application at the same time as a separate application applies when it is purely a Title V septic application under a 40B proposal.
Okay. I think I know the answer to that, but I'm more concerned that Mark has all the information he needs. But yes, let's confirm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think more to follow on this. Once Mark and DeShang and Bob have had a chance to meet and sort of iron out the remaining, I think, smaller issues that I think they should be able to iron out. And then I think once all that's settled in on the plan, we can revisit this. All right. I'm going to switch back to my other screen if that's all right. There we go. Yeah. All right. I think that's it for that topic. Next on our agenda is I think the budget, correct?
Yes.
That's all we have left. So let me find that. I think the key thing is the updated salary request. Yes, Ellen?
Not on the agenda, double check.
It's on there.
Sorry, was there a question about something?
How do I fucking raise my hand?
Hey, Brian, do you want to mute?
Brian,
And then-
yeah, you're
and then
not
I'll keep
muted,
I'll keep
so
working through the agenda. What we're talking about right now is Brian, do you have a question about the budget?
No, I'm sorry. I saw that on the agenda item, there was something for Farm Road Homes.
I don't see that on our agenda. Oh,
Yeah,
Greenwood 40B,
Greenwood
Farm Road
Homes
40B.
and 40B.
I actually don't know that we have anything to say about that at the moment.
May I ask a question of the board?
Sure.
Has the board received the design plans for the septic system for the Farm Road Homes project as of yet?
Mark, do you have those plans?
No, I don't believe, and I could ask Ellen, but I don't believe we received the septic plans for Farm Road.
And for the board's recollection, do they recall when the permitting process, the comprehensive permitting process began for the Farm Roads Home project?
I don't remember the exact date, but we're certainly getting tight on time, especially with the holidays coming up. So the sooner we had those plans, the better. Would be much appreciated.
Would the board be willing to explore with town council what is a reasonable period of time to review what is going to be a massive, massive septic system and stormwater system for that project when you only have like a month left in your 40B timeline? Would that be an unreasonable request?
We've had some preliminary discussion.
As long as it's on your radar, I just don't want this to slip.
It couldn't help but be on our radar. It's a lot of
Thank
work.
you very much for hearing my question tonight. That's my
And Brian, I apologize. I missed the / Farm Road Homes on that agenda item. So that's my oversight. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for hearing my question.
All right. Now we'll go back to budget. Sorry about that. I gotta remember my reading glasses from now on. All right, Ellen. I think this is Rebecca. Did you have a question still? Is your hand still up?
Oh, I don't know why that's up. I'm sorry.
Okay. Ellen,
I just want to mention before maybe Ellen gives a little intro, I'd be happy to also, but we did vote to approve the budget that we had previously, but right, there have been a few other discussions that have gone on with finance and others that have prompted this, so that's why we're looking at it again.
Okay.
So Ellen, did you want to do this or you want me to?
This budget is just increasing Jean's hours to 20 hours a week. At which time she will become benefited. We've been trying to do this for years. And I just think now is the time. She should. I'm still working more than 80 hours every pay period. And she works 16 hours a week. I don't want to work more than 80 hours every pay period. She could take on some of the work that I do very easily if she had the additional hours. I think it's important. And this is the time it should get done.
Yes, and we have been asking for quite a while, so, and it's clear that there's just there is a lot of stuff happening. It's reflected in the food and camp inspector and in the health agent's hours as well. And I wouldn't mind seeing more than 20 hours a week. I think we could use it, but maybe we start with this.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've talked about this even since I've been on the board. We've been trying to do this, and it's clear the work is there, and I also just philosophically think that it makes sense to give people benefits. Like, it's just so close. We may as well just treat her appropriately.
Yeah, well, the previous budget, when she is showing her at 16 hours a week, that was approved at the last meeting, but it was coming back to the board anyway for, I guess, another vote anyway, because of Mark's question about his computer.
Oh, right.
The IT person did check it, and it just needed many updates. So it's been updated, and Mark hasn't complained about his computer anymore. So, right, Mark, it's working?
It is working perfectly.
Good.
Okay.
So,
All
since
right.
the budget had to come back to you anyway, I just request that you vote this.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it makes sense.
The other thing I'd like to do is delete the part-time casual for Ethan. We had discussed that. And I think it's time. We can always reinstate him if that need becomes a need again, but I think it's been quite a number of years since he's worked in town.
It's 4 or 5 years now
Yes.
that we've just carried that, so that would help.
Yes, and he does have some special skills, and so if we need that, we'll do it like we've done other contracts where the town has hired people for a project, a consultant project, really. So
That sounds
and
good. Give
that
advisory
will-
a little bit of a win.
yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else to adjust in this. I think that was it. Oh, and I got a question from the finance director about the nursing contract, the VNA, and they just wanted to know why wasn't it looking like the same number as in, say, FY22? So FY24 is certainly bigger. And I said, well, that's because the contracts are for a 3-year period. They're negotiated and there were adjustments made. And that's just happening pretty much throughout VNA services in the state. So that's what it is. It's new. But that was just a question on why,
Yeah.
like, were we increasing it? Just guessing. They also asked for try to be more realistic with the food inspector and the health agent, since those numbers have been higher because there have just been so many food permits and applications for building and also larger projects and that sort of thing. So Ellen and I have a meeting on budget soon, so maybe we could ask them how we deal with that increase.
They would have to increase then as well, right?
Yeah, so I guess the question is, should we vote on this, or do we need to have that meeting first and adjust those?
Or we could look at what the actuals have been and do something closer to that, perhaps, for both of them, or at least maybe for the FY25 budget request for the food camp inspector.
And even Mark, I mean, his 700 hours, that works out to like 12 or 13 hours a week. He's been working close to, if not more than 20.
Yeah, there have been more periods over 20 this year than ever before.
I agree.
And I know Mark works really hard to keep it below that. So the food inspector, maybe we should put in for 12,000. I don't know, for FY24. If they want a more realistic number, which they've usually they have argued against that kind of approach in the past, but now they're asking for it. So in the past, we would just alert them and they see the numbers as the trends go along, so they know what's coming as they evaluate kind of the burn rate.
Yeah, and actually, at the end of last year, they had to vote for a transfer from the reserve fund because of the salaries.
Right. So maybe let's see, I guess we do have one more meeting where we could approve the budget.
No,
after we meet with them and ask them if they have something in mind for how they want us to it.
I have to submit the budget this Friday.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
We do this Friday and then. So.
Okay. All right, my best guess would be 12,000 on the food inspector, and for the health agent.
We gotta figure out, we don't go by that it's by the hours.
So roughly double. I mean, it seems like 200 to 250 hours.
Yeah,
for the food inspector makes sense.
Kind of backtracking, just from the high of FY23 and then whatever that comes out to be.
250 hours would be 13,768.
You want to call it 225 hours? That'll put us just over 12.
Sure.
And then for Mark, what do we realistically think the average sort of weekly hours are, Mark?
Yeah, lately it's been, in fact, these last 2 weeks are going to go over 20 each week also.
Right.
It's been very busy, as Darryl said, larger projects. Just in the last 3 weeks, we received 9 soil test applications. It's just very busy. I would say it's getting close to the 1,000 hours, but you know,
that's the number I was going to throw out there.
I didn't hear that.
Unfortunately, the town's busy.
1,000 hours
Oh.
for Mark.
Now, the only concern I have.
That would be, yeah.
It's a big increase, but it's realistic.
Yeah. The only
I know I'm trying to balance with
sorry, Ellen keeps trying to say she has a concern. Go ahead, Ellen.
Sorry. My only concern is if we do that and increase the food inspectors and the health agents' hours, will that make Jean's increase less likely? Or should we just carry the food inspector and the health agent as they are? Because if they work over, they'll get paid anyway, and it'll just be another year of reserve fund transfer at the end of the year.
I have no problem letting Jean go forward this year, and as Ellen said, we never know what's going to come, but it just seems it doesn't stop. It just gets busier, and then you have the option for the reserve at the end. But that I'll leave that up to the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to the board.
I think that's not unreasonable because, you know, we know that kind of the base level of work is high. And it really is unpredictable. With maybe food trucks will suddenly fall out of favor, or something else will happen on the food front, or the camps will start understanding, you know, the application procedures better. It won't take as much of Tom's time to go through that. Right, so that to me is much more guesswork than the basic work that we know flows through the office. So
is there concern that additional line item costs could potentially have a negative impact on Jean, adding 4 hours to Jean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
and I think we can argue that the hours for Jean are more certain of being needed, because they've been
Absolutely.
needed for a very long
For a
time,
while,
whereas
yeah.
these other increases are more recent phenomena.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, that makes our job easier tonight too, in terms of trying to figure out what is the magic number it's going to turn into.
Well,
board
we'll
now.
scare the accountants less.
Yeah.
Surprised, right, Diana?
I mean, I think if they come back and push us and they're like, we really want you to, like, this has been low for years and years, we want you to estimate better, we'll say, hey, it's just hard to estimate. Like, we know we need the additional administrative time. We might need up to this much more time for the agent and the food inspector, but that's less certain. And that just becomes a conversation. But I think for now, it seems like the right thing to do is approve this budget. And then if we get sort of requests for more information, we can supply that.
Well, as long as Mark and Tom are going to get paid if they work over, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It was helpful that Ellen clarified that.
And unfortunately, Ellen doesn't get paid if she works over.
That's right. That's another reason I want Jean to get more hours.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Okay, is it time for a motion?
I think it is. Do we have a motion to approve this budget as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Matt Beaver's aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Thank you. I just hope that goes through.
Me too.
Hey, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, but we've asked and we haven't got.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I think those are all the items. I know, Rebecca, we had sort of proposed and then removed some things. I'm happy to put those on for next time. I know that we were.
I would rather put them on if we receive materials at least 1 week before the meeting, because it won't be effective if we don't have time to digest, you know, what's being proposed before we meet. So, and then add it
for the rental thing specifically. I think, Rebecca, if you could just pull out the specific items from the state regs that you're interested in adding, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Focusing the discussion.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that would be the most useful thing.
No, it
and then
makes
we'll.
sense. It's fine.
Can I
Okay,
ask
so
a-
then,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, Matt. I'm so sorry. I had to switch to my phone because my computer died and I can't find buttons. Just practically, I was thinking, Rebecca, it's our next meeting is the 20th. Is that correct?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. It is that particular time period is exceptionally busy for me as a parent. And so if we were to have it on the agenda at the beginning of January, my bandwidth to look at things just gets a little bit better. I would look at it either way, but just putting it out there for us.
Yeah,
For us.
we can, I mean, I'll submit the material whenever it's ready. And then you guys, everybody can decide whether it is added to the agenda.
Okay, so that sounds fine. So submit it to Ellen. Ellen can reach out to Daryl and I, and we'll get it on the agenda for the next meeting after that. But I agree, the 20th is a What do we have on the agenda for the 20th so far, Ellen? Why don't we
We're
start?
going to have, Laurel update, but also Greenwood and Farm Road Homes.
Yep.
Mark has a tentative item, 11 South Main Street, review of design flow for possible new tenant.
Okay. Anything else?
And that's it right now.
Okay. So Laurel Farm Wells, Greenwood Homes, Farm Road Homes, tentatively 11 South Main. And then if we have details on the rental units and we have bandwidth, we could do it then, but it might be better. What's our January meeting? The 3rd? Is that our first meeting in January?
I think it's the 4th, I think.
The 3rd is the Wednesday, I think.
Okay, then it's the 3rd.
Okay.
And
So
I expect-
maybe why don't we tentatively say the 3rd for the rental unit water testing? And that gives Rebecca a couple more weeks too.
And I expect that the board will see probably a very busy February, March period. Because as I noted earlier, in 3 weeks, we received 9 soil testing applications. And those will all turn probably into hearings for septic. So I have a feeling end of January, February, March are going to be very busy periods.
I don't necessarily agree, Mark. Usually they take longer to submit the plans when it's
Well,
in
maybe
the
it might
early-
be, yeah, it might be March,
it's usually
April,
this
but
late summer.
yeah. We are going to get busy though,
Yeah.
just from those soil testing applications.
Huh. Did I miss anything?
Adjournment.
That sounds good. I don't trust myself to read this, but I think adjournment is it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Great. I'm assuming no further discussion, so Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye. Thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Good night, everyone.
Everybody.
Oh.